hi.
Hello.
I'm so happy to be here in your studio.
Well, thanks for coming, Melissa.
Yeah, and I'm here, if you don't know, with Loren Munk, and we're here in your studio in Tiffany Place. I won't give the address.
Yes. Somewhere on the west coast of Brooklyn.
Somewhere. And we're in front of a painting that you're in progress.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to start by talking a little bit about what's behind us.
Well, as we were sort of getting set up for this, I was talking a little bit about what my ideas are about art, the art world, the art community. And I guess probably about 15 years ago, I went through a creative crisis. I changed what I was doing, and I decided that what I wanted to do was start to study and analyze things about the art world, the art community, the history of art, how the history of art is made. And one of the things that really interested me was the communities, the kind of the organic enclaves of creative people that sort of form around certain neighborhoods, how those neighborhoods change, why they change, and who makes up those communities. So this is my most recent piece I'm working on, which is a large map of Bushwick. And I don't know how many of you viewers out there are aware, but Bushwick is kind of the latest hot, trendy, artsy neighborhood in Brooklyn. And I started covering this. I also do some writing for the Brooklyn Rail. So I was started covering and doing reviews of galleries out there in 2003. I think was the first time that I went and wrote something about the place. And actually, that was before they knew what they were going to call it. So there were various names people were floating around. And anyway, Bushwick kind of stuck. And so since then, I've made it part of my project to keep track of the various changes, the comings, the goings, who's there, what's happening. And then I try to somehow boil this down to some kind of a graphic sign or a diagram. And I found out that I think that the mapping is a very good way to kind of give people an idea of how a community is formed, how it changes over time, how certain people seem to pop up at maybe several different places. You know, if you wanted to take some time, you could see where, oh, gee, there's this guy, Julian A. Jimenez Howard is a real mover and shaker. So he's involved in like 2 or 3 of the different places. He's a great guy. And there are other people that are like that. But I'm just trying to kind of record all these things because I feel that I don't know what you would call it, the academic or the commercial art world, the world of the institutions, the publications, and the people that are kind of making a certain version of history, they kind of level the field. They kind of boil it down to, you know, each art movement has 3 people. Each neighborhood would have 3 people that are worth looking at. All the other people, just forget about it. This is black, this is dark matter. We don't want anything to do with those people. And so it's my contention that the culture of our time is affected by a lot of people. You could say everybody. And admittedly, there are certain individuals and maybe groups of individuals that might have a more powerful influence on shaping what is considered culture. But even within those groups, there are a lot of other people that are unsung or unseen that are influencing a lot of this stuff. And that's what a lot of this work is about, trying to illuminate the dark matter of the art world.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great. And as you were talking, I'm just noticing how beautifully painted these lines are. You know, I know it is a mapping, but part of that aesthetic, you know, you have these kind of crisscrosses of
Yes.
lines. And are these taped or hand painted, or how do you?
This is all taped. I have a process where I use a projector.
Mhm.
I have a couple of various typefaces that I like to use. Arial Black is one of them. Another one is called Hottenschweller. So I have a couple of basic typefaces that I like to use. One of the things that's kind of interesting for me is even if you were to take out the titles and the names and things like that, there's a certain kind of a beauty just from the way that the lines sort of start to flow, the color overlays, and also because I'm a painter and have been a painter for 50 some odd years now, the work with the hand and the slathering the paint on and showing that it's real paint. This is not something that's printed on a digital printer or something. This is handmade out of oil paint. That's a real important thing for me because I feel like I'm kind of carrying on the legacy of the New York School of Painting, which a lot of it was about the physicality of painting and just the kind of the magic alchemical substance that oil paint is.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's just yeah, what you're just talking about with the lines and the mark making, and then like projecting out into the words, and kind of like that. You're also, I think, by not printing it, also there's like an energy or an integrity, you know, of painting.
Yeah, I like to keep the hand in there, and sometimes the hand makes mistakes, and sometimes the paint drips or the masking tape comes up, and you have a little, what they call a tumor, a little blob of paint that slips under there. And I try to leave as much of that as I can. I mean, yeah, I usually look back and I go, if it bothers me, okay, I can always fix it. But if it doesn't bother me, I'll just leave it in because I think that's a big part of what painting is. And the other thing I think that's kind of interesting is that a lot of times I'll try to do these chronologically. So some of the galleries maybe that were open 10 years ago, they'll be down there first and they'll be on one of the peripheral spaces. And then as you keep building up things on top of that, parts of them start to get covered up, just like what happens in art history. So, you know, somebody might be a well-known artist or known for this or known for that, but as time goes by, other people sort of build on them, and slowly but surely, parts of what they were doing sort of get covered over by the stuff that's coming in the more recent times. So that's also kind of a interesting allegory for the kind of painting I'm doing.
That's really, yeah. And do you, for some of the colors that you have, do you use maybe like a website or their logo, or is it like a color that you're
Sometimes I do that.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself requires a lot of research and stuff like that. Like this, there's one over here, Factory Fresh.
Oh, yeah.
So I did use their logo. But a lot of times, this is one of the things, I'm also interested in text. Mm-hmm. Text as a, not only as a carrier of literary meaning, but I think the text also has a certain kind of decorative aesthetic value.
Yeah.
And also different styles of text can kind of evoke certain emotional responses. Like I was mentioning this typeface called Hottenschweller, which was designed by, I think, Swiss Germans in the 1920s. But when I was a kid, this is the type of lettering that they would put on signs that you would see maybe in public places or in your the hallway of your school. You know, it's like something ever. You know, if you see a blast of light, face it and drop down because there could be a nuclear bomb, and so that kind of emotional response, I think, is a very kind of interesting thing to also play with as far as just the typefaces and things go.
Definitely has that beauty, you know, just to see them all together. And that, you know, it's interesting, you know, just pull something from childhood, you know, and bring it forth in your work. And
well, that's one of the things I love about painting, because I also get the feeling that certain colors, you know, you just put them together and you start to get a certain kind of a response. And It could be anything from, gee, I remember those kinds of colors in a sunset I saw, or maybe it's like, oh, gee, my favorite candy bar had that kind of brown and orange and blue thing going on. You might not even know what it was, but it gives you some kind of an emotional response, and that's always, for me, it's a nice thing to sort of play around with.
Yeah, as the painter, that's
yes,
what you do.
As a painter.
Yeah, and so this this type of mapping and work, you have you started making videos, you said 10
yes.
10 years ago?
It'll be 10 years in March 16.
Wow. Wow.
2016. And I've got over 1,000 programs online.
That's wonderful. It's really, we'll definitely put the website, I'm sure a lot of people watch.
I think altogether I got something like 5 million views.
5 million views, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people get 5 million views on one video.
Well, and you said too that you had 2 different programs. So there's
I have 2 channels.
Okay, 2 channels, right.
I have the original one that I started out with was the James Comm Report, and I started that in 2006. And then probably about 3 or 4 years later, I decided that I wanted to have another channel which would be much more spontaneous, and I would try to get the videos online as fast as I could rather than taking the time to edit them and polish them and get everything going well. So I have 2 channels, and a lot of people actually prefer the rough cuts because it's fresher, it's more direct, it's more urgent. But yeah, so I do have 2 channels.
And I really appreciate that you have musicians, like street musicians that you have,
well,
like
that,
kind of promoting them as well.
That is another kind of a creative way that I was able to overcome a certain problem. And if you're doing videos, and if you read about how do you make an appealing video, one of the things that you have to do is have some kind of a soundtrack that attracts people. So I started out and I was actually borrowing musical soundtracks from people like Beck and some of these other companies. Well, what ended up happening is that YouTube would they would cut your audio, and they would say that this is a copyright infringement. Not that they did it to me a lot. They did it to me one time, and then I decided, gee, I got to figure out a way of getting around this because it's important to sort of, I thought that the music was a really great way of kind of setting a mood, distinguishing yourself from these other people that are just sitting in front of a camera talking into a camera. So I thought about it for a couple of days, and I'm always out riding around on my bicycle, and I started to, pay more attention. I'd always been seeing them, but I started to pay more attention to the street musicians, and I saw some of them, and I'm thinking, these people are damn good, and it would be a great thing maybe if I could use some of their music. And of course I try to dole out a few bucks here and there. Yeah. And so that's worked out well, and actually it's gotten to be so good that I had, well, just the day before yesterday, somebody sent me a little post on a Julian Schnabel exhibition. And they said something like, that music at the beginning is great, but that art really stinks. So I'm saying, well, if something makes you happy, that's good. But it's become a very integral part to the whole kind of the look of the James Comm videos. And I enjoy it, and I really feel in a certain way that the street musicians in a lot of ways are a lot like an artist. It's sort of like, throw away all the pretenses. We don't have a bar that I'm in. We're not at a concert hall. I'm just here on the street. I'm doing my thing, and you can like it or you can hate it. You can stop and pay attention, or you can walk on by. And in a certain way, that to me is like the perfect kind of a symbol of what it is to be an artist. Yeah. And I get some good stuff. And I've gotten to know a lot of the people now, so it's kind of a special thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I also, by doing these videos, how many artists you have supported, as part of
yes.
that kind of community as well.
And I try, if I can, I try to get the people's websites, or if they have an album they're promoting or something like that, I'll try to put that in somehow in the video.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to say thank you. It's just
My pleasure.
wonderful to be here as a newbie person doing these types of things, to be here with someone who has almost 10 years under their belt of recording videos. So,
Well, I've kind of flubbed along for 10 years, so that's the way to get started.
yeah.
Just go out and do it. Don't worry about perfecting your style or having the multi-million-dollar apparatus that you use. Get your $2 camera and a bicycle and go make some magic happen.
That's right. Thank you so much, Loren.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
And thanks out there in video land.